Well, Donald Trump has been at the center of power in some shape or form for the last 3 decades. As a businessman, as a leader, as a property developer, he's certainly played his full role. And newly uncovered images obtained exclusively by us are revealing a fresh look at President Trump's past ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So 1993, here you go. It shows Epstein at Mr. Trump's wedding to Marla Maples. Now, Epstein's attendance at the wedding was not widely known until now. CNN's K-File also found this footage showing the two of them at a 1999 Victoria's Secret fashion show. All of these were taken long before Epstein was accused of sexual abuse in such a way. Kevin Liptak is live at the White House. I'm guessing the White House is going to point out and say, look, Donald Trump was a player in New York for decades. It is natural that he would have been at these events with these people. They're all sort of the elites of the time.
Yeah, that is more or less what they're saying. And, you know, a lot of celebrities of that era were friends with Jeffrey Epstein, who was someone who cultivated the rich and powerful as part of his career and part of building his aura. And Donald Trump was certainly one of them. But the reason I think these images and photos are so noteworthy is that they do fill in some of the gaps. You know, President Trump has been pretty veiled about what exactly his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was. And I think that is one of the underlying questions as this scandal that is now entering its 3rd week is what exactly the files that the administration says that they won't release say about Donald Trump. Now, he has said specifically that no, the Attorney General has not told him that his name appears in them, but that hasn't necessarily quieted the speculation about what exactly some of this information might unearth about Trump himself. And that, according to Trump's critics, is one of the reasons that he just wants all of this to die away. And so that's why I think these images are so interesting and are so notable. The White House says that they are nothing more than out of context frame grabs of innocuous videos and pictures of widely attended events, which I think is important to get out there, important to put out what the White House is saying about them. But certainly I don't think it's helpful for Trump in any way as he tries to tamp down on this ongoing scandal to see photos of himself out there circulating with Jeffrey Epstein.
And you know, develop what Stephen Collinson was just saying a second or two ago, because by rights, you know, his close supporters who seem to will walk over hot coals for him and run a million miles are not giving up on this, because they do believe that there is this, quote, deep state. There is something smelly about the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think the thing about the MAGA movement that's important is that it's not like any political movement. It's not monolithic. There are people in this group who have been with him since 2015 who are going to be with him until the end. You know, I think of kind of like the rural, middle to lower class voters who kind of voted for him and will be with him forever. But there were a lot of people who voted in last year's election who were not that group of people. Maybe they voted for the first time. Maybe they weren't voting for Donald Trump, but they were voting against Kamala Harris. These are people for whom Donald Trump does not necessarily have an iron grip upon. A lot of them were first-time voters. A lot of them are young men for whom this issue is actually quite a big deal. And you hear that in some of the right-wing media, things like the Theo Von podcast or some of the so-called manosphere. People for whom Donald Trump is not the end-all be-all of politics. They don't necessarily feel a great allegiance to him as a man, and they do want to know more about these Epstein files, about these Epstein cases. That's the group of people that I think aren't necessarily going to let this go anytime soon, at least, despite all of the administration's efforts to put out more information, trying to get the grand jury records out, try and interview Ghislaine Maxwell, which has not gone over particularly well with some of that subset of people. And so I think that's the thing to watch going forward, is what subset of the MAGA movement stays with Trump and what part decides that this is kind of the last straw.
I'm grateful, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.